Welcome to this session on standards and specification. This is the third part of session 12, and the name of the subject is Fashion Material and Production Management for Merchandisers. So this pretty much gives you a very fair understanding that how the fit and the various other aspects of classification and labeling and guide and terminology, how do these help run the organization in a very structured format. Now let's look at the international standards. Now, to facilitate trade and technology transfer among nations, you have to have international standards. Now, you have Indian standards, you have American standards. Both of them are different from each other. Then you won't be able to trade with each other because you have a different language, America has different language. So until unless we have international standards, two countries will not be able to transact with each other. So international standards have been set today in order to facilitate trade and technology transfer among nations. Now, the technology that is used today is the same when we talk about, let's say, laptops, or when we talk about the cell phones, and when we talk about the technology behind the websites. So whatever cell phone or whatever laptop in whichever country you take, you will be able to open any website or download any app, because these are based on international standards. Otherwise, you may have WhatsApp in America and you download it in India and you see that you are not able to download or you are not able to use it because the technical standards in US and India, they are different. So that's why, to facilitate trade and technology transfer among nations, the international standards have been put in place. Now, international standards, they produce greater compatibility of goods and services, fairly evident, following from the first point. Because we have international standards, therefore we have greater compatibility of goods and services. So you buy a laptop in America, you buy a pen drive in Malaysia, and you buy a CD in India. And you can use the CD and the pen drive with the laptop. They are absolutely compatible. This is primarily because there are international standards to the products that are being made, which is laptop, pen drive, and CD. Now, there are more than 80 organizations which have been in the business of developing international standards. Now, if there are so many organizations, Japanese, just to name a few: Japanese Industrial Standards Committee, Standard Council of Canada, Standards New Zealand, British Standards Institute. There are so many in the world. And then one notable one is European Committee for Standardization, which is CEN. Now, in the CEN, we have CEN/TC248, which is related to textile and textile products. So all textile and textile products, the standardization has been talked about in TC248. Now, CEN/TC standard, these are not necessarily ISO standards. These have been created by European Committee for standardization. And because there are so many types of organization with their own standardizations, there is bound to be conflicts and trade difficulties, especially when the organizations don't agree. Now, how does it, what is the significance of this situation where, there are different kinds of organization and they have their own way of standardizing? Now, if you are an export house, you work with Tesco, you work with Walmart, you work with, let's say, H&M. Now, H&M says that, we follow these standards or set of standards. Now, to prove that you can handle those standards, you will have to take a certification. Now, you have taken a certification. Now, you get in touch with, let's say, Walmart. And you tell them that, so Walmart says, we need these standards to be fulfilled. You say, yeah, I can handle these standards. I am doing this for H&M. Now, Walmart says, no. We have Bureau Veritas or SGS or some other organization which will evaluate you, and they will certify you. If they certify you, then we'll give you business. Now imagine you've gone through the entire exercise of, taking care of all the processes and all the operations in your organization. It takes a lot of time, amount, energy, money, and then you have taken a certification from one organization for H&M. Now you're talking to Walmart and Walmart says, no, I am not bothered about what certification you have taken for H&M. You have to take in second certification and from another organization, that's a Bureau Veritas, BV. So from BV you have to take the certification. Now again you have to go through the entire process again. Because Walmart does not agree with what H&M is following, so the garment exporter gets trapped in this and they face these difficulties of taking multiple certification for the same thing. Now, the standards and specification. Now, if you look at the standards, what is the application to the textile sector? Now, the standards, they reflect business objectives that deal with meeting needs, expectation of the target group. Now, I'm sure you would agree that standards reflect business objective. Now, if your business objective is to occupy the international markets, you will follow international standards. If your standards, if you want to satisfy rich customers in India, you're going to follow very high standards. But if you want to cater to the masses of India, you cannot possibly give great standards. You cannot, because it's going to cost a lot and the masses will not be able to afford it. So the type of standard that you follow, it will reflect your business objective. And your business objective is either to handle international markets or to handle very rich clients or to handle masses or whatever. So the standards clearly reveal that. Standards also reflect the characteristics that define the quality for a company. Now, for a company, quality means something. For different companies, quality means different things. Now, the standards which a company follows, that reveals the definition of quality for a company. So, for some company, quality means providing cheap and long-lasting batteries to the customer. So they are producing certain standard of batteries. So standards reflect the characteristics that define the quality for a company. Now, what is the characteristic over here? The characteristic is cheap and long-lasting batteries. So that is the standard of that company. For that company, quality is defined as cheap and long-lasting. Now, one example that we have over here is national standards relate to labeling and supplying information for consumers at point of purchase. Now, in India, the national standards clearly state that a garment has to be sold clearly stating what is the fiber made in cotton, made of cotton or polyester or cotton polyester, whatever, that has to be mentioned. Which company is selling it, what is the size, what is the price at which you are selling, what is the wash care. All of that has to be included when you are selling a garment. That is the national standard in India. And the MRP also has to be written. But if you look at international markets, the international law does not say that you have to write the MRP on the tag. You have to have a barcode. You don't have to write the MRP. But in India, you have to write the MRP. So that is the national standard. International standard is something else. Now, international standards relate to information necessary for international business. For example, ISO 9000 standards. Now, ISO is international. Now, if you are selling in the international market, then the government will say that your label should carry the care instruction in all the languages that are followed in different countries where you are selling the garment. So that is the international standard. If you are selling in India, your labels can be in English or can be in vernacular language. But if you are selling in international markets, then it has to be in English and Chinese and so many other, the most predominant, prevalent languages. So those are the international standards. And in international markets, if you are getting the product made in Bangladesh and if you are selling in England, the garments have to clearly reveal made in Bangladesh. It is a rule. You cannot hide it. Firms may need to specify in various languages. Sometimes when you are in, let's say, Latin America or in France or in Germany, those are such countries where there are 3, 4 languages, predominant languages. So the country would require you to specify in various languages because you have people from different ethnicities residing in your country. Further applications. The purpose of standards or specifications is to incorporate the desired quality into the products that are produced based on those documents and requirements. Now, one very important purpose of standard specification is read the standard documents, read the specifications, and then make the product. When you follow the standards and the specification, you will create such products which have the desired quality. Now, the desired quality can be, so the desired quality will be different if you are selling for Big Bazaar. And the desired quality will be different if you are, doing this for Shoppers Stop, or if you are doing it for, let's say, a 5-star hotel. So, a 5-star hotel or Shoppers Stop or Big Bazaar, all of them will have different documents and requirements related to standards and specifications. So anyone who reads these documents will give the exact required quality. It can be cheap quality, it can be premium quality. But all of that is documented by the organization. Now, this is one thing which one has to remember, that one doesn't develop or write quality standards. You don't write quality standards and therefore accordingly people will read it and they will start making great quality. It does not happen like that. Rather, appropriate aspects of quality are incorporated into standard specification as they are developed. Which means when the standards and specifications are being developed, then the company focuses on what is the quality which is expected by the consumer. What is the customer expecting from me, from my products? So let's say I'm a Big Bazaar. So I have to focus on the aspects of quality for my customer. And accordingly, I have to incorporate those aspects into the standard and specification documents when I'm developing. So the prime focus is the customer. For my customer, what is the meaning of quality? From that definition, I am going to develop my standards and specifications. And one funny joke here, quality can't be added to products after production. See, after you have already produced, you cannot improve the quality of the product. Quality is added when the designing of the product is being done, when the sourcing of the product is being done, when the cutting, stitching, all of these things, when they are happening, quality is being added to it. When you are cutting it in the right manner, you are adding quality to it. When you are explaining how is it to be stitched, you are adding quality to the product. And when the tailor is stitching the garment, you are standing there and monitoring whether the things are being done correctly or not. You are actually adding quality to the product. So quality is being added when the production is happening, not after the production has happened. Now, all brands or companies, they are very strictly instructed that focus on what factors contribute to quality. Now today, if you take the example of Oppo phone realized that there is a set of customers for whom taking selfies is the most important aspect when buying a cell phone. So they chose that particular requirement and they developed a cell phone which clicks the best selfie with highest megapixels. So they focused on a particular type of customer, and for those customers, great selfie pictures mean great quality. So focusing on this aspect, they created the cell phone Oppo, which is the selfie camera phone. So they focused on that particular factor. Now, OnePlus cell phone, they looked at their customer and they tried to find out what are the factors which incorporated in a cell phone would mean great quality to our customers. And based on that, they created such cell phones which have same, similar, or even more features than iPhone. And they offered it at a lower price. And today, OnePlus is a great success. And it has been able to eat away, snatch away a significant share of the mobile market from iPhone as well as from Samsung. Samsung was the leader in cell phone handsets for quite a few years. So they focused on what factors contribute to quality, and they followed that. And it's important to incorporate standards that address quality concerns. Now, I want a shirt, a formal shirt, which is cheap and which can be washed easily, does not get dirty easily. I'm meaning to say that if I'm looking at young professionals who have just started their career, they want cheap shirts, not expensive ones, and they don't have so much time. They're not married. They don't have, most of these people, they live a bachelor life in the big cities. So for them, they want that, the shirt does not get dirty easily, and they would want that, you just dip it in water and put it into the sun to dry. It dries very easily, and it does not even crumple easily, does not crush easily. So for those young professionals, a good quality means should be economical and should be easy to take care of. That is great quality for them. So you should incorporate those standards. Now, after we have focused on what factors contribute to quality, then we incorporate standards that address the quality concerns. Then we relate each element of the product to consumer expectation and satisfaction. Now, let's say we take the example of a consumer who is a consumer of iPhone. Now, what does iPhone do? They relate each element of their phone to the consumer expectation and satisfaction. Now, what does the consumer expect from an iPhone? It should be sleek. The design should be impeccable, the metal material should be very elegant, and the speeds have to be absolutely fantastic. And it cannot be hacked, no viruses, it will never hang, and the speeds are phenomenal. And it has a lot of proprietary applications. Proprietary application meaning to say such applications which are only meant for Apple. It has not been made for Android or any other phone. So that is what consumer expect, and that is what iPhone does. It relates each of the elements. So what are the elements? So the touch and feel, the look of the key, the keypad or the UI UX, and the speed, and the features, and the apps, the proprietary apps. So the consumer expectation is has a particular expectation with regard to the look and the feel and the touch and the UI UX and everything. And accordingly, each of those elements of iPhone is built in order to satisfy the customer. Now, standards versus marketing. Now, standards help the marketing team to sell the product easily because they can boast about the standards and accordingly include it in their marketing communication. The production people need standard because how do I produce if you don't give me standards? You give me standards, I'm going to follow that. If you don't give me any standard, how will I produce? Now, if you talk about merchandising, merchandisers, when they are communicating, when they are sourcing, when they are buying products for their brand, how will they buy if they do not have any standard? They have to give standards to the vendors. Only then they will be able to get the product made as per that particular standard. So standards is relevant for marketing, for production, for merchandising, for designing, for everyone. Now let's look at the further aspects of application of textile sector, uh, application of standards, some more things that uh, any garment organization or garment manufacturing organization should definitely take into account in order to perform well and be able to satisfy the customer requirements much better than their competitors. Now, a firm should develop standards for the size, grading rule, fit. Now, we are talking about only the companies which are related to garment manufacturing. And they should also develop standards for material performance, for construction, for special needs of the user, for the appearance, and for the packaging. And we're going to look at them one by one for a much better understanding of these aspects of standards. So when we look at fit, now consumers often feel that fit of one brand is better than another brand, and I'm sure that you will say that a particular brand like let's say Wrangler has a better fit than let's say Levi's, and someone else would say that Levi's fits me better than Wrangler or any other brand. Now successful firms, they have developed fits that are acceptable for each size. Now Wrangler has its own market, and at least there are certain number of people who swear by the size of or swear by the fit of Wrangler that this is the best fit. So every brand should have at least a certain quantum of the population which is loyal to or which accepts its fit. Now the dimensions incorporate a plus minus tolerance for each measurement. Now if you have seen various measurement charts, and in every measurement chart, whatever measurement has been given, along with the measurement, you have to give a tolerance of plus minus, certain tolerance. Now if you want the shirt length to be 70 centimeter, you'll have to give at least a tolerance of plus minus 1 centimeter or maybe 1.5 centimeter, because it's fabric. When you have a 70 centimeter long fabric, it may vary by at least 1 centimeter up or down. And but if you talk about collar, then the measurement of the collar has a zero tolerance. The collar has to be the exact size, but then the collar, the measurement is anyways, it's a small piece. So in that case, the tolerance is not going to be so much. So when you are giving the dimensions, you must incorporate a plus minus tolerance. Now, if you talk about a short dress, then you have a tolerance in the minus side, that a short dress may be half a centimeter shorter, but it cannot be even half a centimeter longer. Otherwise, you may have the risk of short dress looking like a long dress. So on the negative side, you have a tolerance, but on the positive side, you don't have tolerance. So that there are such cases also where you have tolerance only in plus or only in minus. Some companies would say that, in fact, elastic is a case where elastics may expand. So you may have a tolerance of in the plus side, but it should not shrink. So there is zero tolerance on the negative side in case of elastics. And some firms develop standards that describe a loose or a tight fit. So some have loose fit or tight fit or cigarette fit or a comfort fit. Now Levi's has that, G-Star Raw or Paul Smith. All of them have described their fit, in whatever eloquent English terms that they have chosen to use. But each of them describe their fits as, loose fit or tight fit or comfort fit or whatever fit. And the second is the standards of performance. Now, this one is very important. Now, standards of performance in terms of, let's say, the care or ease of spreading, cutting, sewing, finishing, durability, comfort, appearance, retention. Now, you have to give standards for this performance. When you say care, and if you say easy care means I don't have to put in a lot of time and effort and money on refurbishing of the garment. Refurbishing means cleaning of the garment. So cleaning can be in terms of washing just with water, or washing with detergent, or dry cleaning it. Now dry cleaning is expensive. So when you say easy care, it should be easy care. A normal garment which has to be washed with detergent in a washing machine, you can't call it easy care. You talk about ease of spreading. Now there are some fabrics which are not easy to spread. They are very sticky, they are very flimsy, their dimensional stability is very less. So even if you stretch it a little, it stretches a lot. So you have to stretch it, spread it on the table, and let it relax for at least 24 hours. So you lose a lot of time on that. So ease of spreading is again one of the aspects when we are spreading the fabric on the table, and we want to know from the fabric supplier that what will be the ease of spreading. Is it going to be easy or is it going to be difficult? And then we have cutting or sewing or finishing. Then again we have standards of performance, different standards. So some fabrics can be cut easily, and the level of or the standard of cutting required is very less. But if you talk about fabrics like chiffon and silk, chiffon, silk, satin, etc., the cutting standard has to be very high. Else, the cutting will lead to disaster. So you have to set standards for cutting, for sewing, for finishing. Now, what is good sewing? What is average sewing? What is excellent sewing? So if these are three standards, you have to set the standards at three levels, and you have to define those levels so that people understand. When you say I want standard 1, they understand they have to give the best standard, and that best standard means level 1, something like that. Same for finishing. And if you say durability, now the standard of performance over here in durability is that, let's say, a formal shirt. The crispness of the formal shirt should be intact for at least 20 washes. That is durability in terms of numbers. Comfort, it should not be scratchy, it should not be uncomfortable for the customer when the customer is wearing something. So comfort has certain levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. That is the standard of performance when we are talking about comfort. And same for appearance retention. Sweaters or polyesters, they don't crush easily. A polyester t-shirt, you wear it, you simply throw it on the floor, pick it up again, it won't have any crushes. It won't be crumpled because it has very high appearance retention. That is the standard of performance when we're talking about appearance retention. But if you take a cotton shirt or maybe a handloom shirt, cotton, if you just throw it on the floor and you pick it up, after 10 minutes, it will be crushed. So the appearance retention performance is going to be very low. And then we have construction standards, which we have discussed earlier also. Construction standards in the sense that there should, let's say one company says, whatever shirts we make, we will have circular hem. Now most of the formal shirts, they have straight hem. Casual shirts, they may have circular hem. In ladies wear, ladies blouses or tops, etc., they may have circular hem. No raw edges. Obviously, none of the brands in India, they accept raw edges. Other than the raw edges that you have in when you have torn jeans, distressed jeans. Some designers, they do not accept any overlock. They have a construction standard that we will not use overlock. They will only use lock stitch, 3-thread lock stitch. And some brands like Arrow, etc., they may have a construction standard that all our shirts will have 7 buttons. We won't have 8, we won't have 6. So this is an example of construction standards. Then we have special consumer needs. Now every brand, every company has such customers who have special needs. We have to also take care of those needs. Now, if you talk about trunk liners as in there's a trunk, the dicky of the car. So when you open the dicky or the boot of the car, it is lined. You know, there's a textile material which is on the floor. Whether there is extreme hot or extreme cold, you will find no problem with that lining in the dicky or the boot of the car. If there is any soil, any dirt, that dirt does not stick to that. You can very easily clean it with a vacuum cleaner, and it molds very well. So normally the dicky or the back, the boot of the car is of different shapes. So if you put this lining inside the trunk, it very easily falls well, molds well with the shape of uh, the trunk of the car. So in case of automobiles, you have to give those kind of textiles, which can, which pose no problem in hot or cold temperatures, and which are soil resistant and which molds very well. They are not very stiff. Acha, let's say there are kids wear like Lilliput or Ginny and Johnny, etc., etc. Now they have some special consumer needs, like they make such kids wear that enable kids to dress themselves. Now small children, they cannot wear garments on their own. Now you could make such garments which can be worn by the kids on their own. You know, kids with special needs, who are autistic or mentally they have not developed, even they should be able to dress themselves. So that is again, one such standard that you may set for your company, uh, where you try to meet the needs of the special consumers. And then, of course, we have appearance standards. Every garment should look crisp. So, what does crisp mean? So, you define that. Dyed to match. Now, this is one such example. Every shirt that we make, if it's a white shirt, it will have white buttons. If we have blue shirt, it will have blue buttons, and the blue should match exactly, the blue button should match exactly with the color of the shirt. So that is an appearance standard, dyed to match. Lacoste buttons. Now, Lacoste brand, they only use mother of pearl buttons. That is again one appearance standard. Hems cannot roll. Now, if you see this visual, the hem of the garment, it has turned, and it has a couple of folds. Now, if you are making crisp garments, you can't have rolling hems. Such kind of folds at the hem looks ugly, and you cannot sell. So, some brands are very strict about it, and you cannot have any rolling hem. So, these are the examples of appearance standard. Appearance standard by various companies. And then we have the packing standards. You have seen different kinds of packing, very interesting ones. Some are going to use poly bags, some are going to use only paper, some are going to use sustainable methods, sustainable materials, etc., etc. So an organization also must set the packaging standards. For example, a company H&M uses only eco-friendly packing, or packing is made from recyclable materials, so that the poly bag that you're using is recyclable. Now there are some poly bags which cannot be recycled. So H&M says that we are not going to use any such packing material which cannot be recycled afterwards. So that is an example of packing standards. Then some brands would say that whenever we pack, we will use barcode. Some may say we'll use barcode as well as QR code. And others may say that, in every garment, we are going to provide the content, the description, and the visual. Now, if you buy a double bed sheet, you don't have to open the entire bed sheet to see what design there is. There is a visual material on the cover of the double bed sheet, and you can read whether it is polyester, cotton, whatever, whether it is jacquard or not, whether it is plain weave, whether it is printed, or whatever. So all the content will be on the cover itself, and it will also carry the visual. So you can see and then select the bed sheet. You don't have to open it, because if you open the entire bed sheet for a double bed, it's going to be a nightmare to fold it again and put it back inside the packing. So, words of wisdom: many desirable characteristics of a product or a service are not obvious or visible. Now, these aspects require careful attention to detail, in-depth knowledge of product. You have to know the entire product development process and information about target group. Now, there are times when you use special material to make the pocket lining, pocket bag. Now, pocket bag, in a trouser, that pocket bag is not visible from outside. But again, the quality is maintained for that also. You may use a particular printed fabric which goes well with the garment. It is not visible. But whenever you are, let's say, when you open the garment and you see it from inside, you will see the pocket bag, and it should not look ugly. So even for the wearer, even for the customer, that pocket bag should not look ugly. So that is something which is a desirable characteristic, and it may not be visible. Uh, a product can be very, very comfortable, would have a very smooth feel. It's not visible to the eye, but when you wear it, you feel great. Or when you wear a garment, it does not crush even after you have worn it for 24 hours. And this is something which you cannot see. It is not obvious. Only when you have worn it for 24 hours, you may or may not realize that this garment is not crushing. It's still crisp. So many desirable characteristics of a product or a service may not be obvious or visible, but they might be, very important for the customers. To know these characteristics, you have to have an eye for detail, and you should have an in-depth knowledge of the product, the entire product development process. Only then you would be able to provide great products to the customer, which has some unobvious or invisible things which are really, really required by the customer.